Hey friends, welcome to the channel. So today's video is going to be a little different than my usual Codeforces tutorial videos. Today I've got a very special friend of mine. His name is Karthik Arora and he's a fellow YouTuber like me. Now this video is actually in continuation to a video that I made with Karthik for his YouTube channel in which I talk about my journey from my college to Adobe. So make sure you check out that video as well. Now in this video I'm going to give Karthik two coding interview problems that I was given when I was interviewing for Adobe, and let's see how Karthik does and how he tries to approach the problem so that you can also learn from him.
So hey guys, this is Karthik and I'm a 2020 graduate from DTU. I'm currently working at Morgan Stanley, and other than that, I'm a passionate competitive programmer. So you might have seen my Codeforces profiles and my blogs. Also, I'm quite active on YouTube. I am a YouTuber like Naman, so I upload educational content on algorithms, data structures, and yeah, that's about it. So nice being here.
So Karthik, I'll share two of my problems that I was asked in my Adobe interview. And since I haven't disclosed these problems beforehand to you, I would actually like you to share the process of how you would actually solve them in an interview. Okay, sounds good?
All right.
Okay, so let's start.
Hopefully you'll be able to guide me through.
Yeah, definitely. So let's see how it goes. Let's start with the very first problem. The first problem is you are actually given an array of 3n plus 1 numbers, and all the numbers in this array are actually occurring thrice, except one number which is occurring 4 times. Now you need to find this particular number. So let's say, for example, let's say we had an array of 10 numbers, and the numbers were 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then we had 2, 2, then 1 and 3. So if you see 1 and 3 are occurring 3 times and 2 is occurring 4 times. So the answer for this particular array would be 2. So how do you think is the best possible way to find this?
So first thing is that can I assume like there are 3n plus 1 numbers and all numbers appear exactly 3 times,
right?
Except for one which appears 4 times.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense. So see, if it was a coding competition, this would be an easy problem, and I would simply take a hash map. I would count the frequency of each integer in the array. The integer that has a frequency of 4, that is going to be my answer. So overall, for this particular example that you shared here, I would go on like this. I'll say, okay, 1 has a frequency 3, 2 has a frequency 4, and 3 has a frequency 3. So I know that there is just one integer that has a frequency 4, and I'll just output that as my answer.
Okay. So what do you think is the complexity of this?
So since I'm going to iterate over the array, that's going to be big O of n. There are 3n plus 1 numbers, so big O of n in time, but also big O of n in memory, since I'm using that hash map.
Right. So like, do you think there is a better answer for this?
There possibly should be, because I don't think an interview problem would be that straightforward. So maybe I can get rid of the extra space. I can definitely not get rid of the extra time for sure, I think.
Exactly.
But about the space, maybe we can do something.
Okay.
So I think if we work on the bits of the integers, we might reach to some kind of conclusion. So I'm thinking on seeing those integers as the bits. So I'm thinking in this direction. Let's think about the 0th bit of the numbers.
Okay.
Let's think about the 0th bits.
Okay.
Now, if there is an integer x in the array, x appears 3 times or 4 times, right? That's for sure.
You're right, right.
So imagine x and the 0th bit of x.
Okay.
So let's say that x appears 3 times in array.
Okay.
And also think that the 0th bit of x is either a 0 or a 1. That's for sure.
Right, right.
Right. So if I just think about the 0th bit of each and every number and I sum them up together, I'm trying to find this sum of 0th bits. 0th bits of all numbers, of all 3n plus 1 numbers.
Okay.
All right. So if I think about finding the sum out, then let's think about an integer x that appears 3 times in the array. This particular guy is going to contribute to this particular sum either 0 or 3.
Right.
Because if x has the 0th bit 0, then it contributes nothing to that sum. Because 0 into 3 is 0. And if x is appearing 3 times, then it's going to contribute 1 into 3, that is 3.
Right, right.
So what I can conclude is that this sum, this particular sum, all the numbers that appear 3 times are either going to contribute a 0 to this sum or contribute 3 to this sum.
Okay.
But what about the guy, the integer that appears 4 times? That will either contribute a 0 or it will contribute 4. Because if the 0th bit of that number is 1, then it is going to contribute 4 to this sum.
Okay.
So overall, what I am concluding from this is, if let's say that the number that is appearing 4 times has a 0 at the 0th bit, then this particular sum modulo 3 is going to be 0.
Right.
And why is that so? Because all numbers either contributed a 0 or a 3. So
Correct.
modulo 3 would make it a 0.
Correct.
But if the guy that is appearing 4 times, it had a 1 at its 0th position, in that particular case, this sum would not be divisible by 3. Because I would have a 4 plus something divisible by 3, which is overall not divisible by 3.
Right, right.
So using the sum, I'll be able to tell whether the number that is appearing 4 times has a 0 at the 0th position or 1 at the 0th position. And since I'm able to find out what is there at the 0th position, I can do this process for all the remaining bits as well.
Okay.
So hopefully that makes sense. And if we think about this example,
Okay.
I can write 1 as this, 0 and 1. And I can write 2 like this. It's a 1 and a 0. And I can write 3 as 1, 1, right? So if you think about finding the sum of 0th bits of all the numbers, then 1 is going to contribute 3 to this sum.
Exactly.
And 2 is going to contribute nothing to this sum. And again, 3 is going to contribute 3 to the sum.
Okay.
This is 6. 6 modulo 3 is 0. So I conclude that the number which appeared 4 times has a 0 at the 0th bit. So this is the number that I'm forming right now, the final answer. And it has a 0 at the 0th bit.
Okay.
I'll do the same for the first bit as well. And we'll see that 2 contributes 0 to the sum. Sorry, 1 contributes 0 to the sum, 2 contributes 4 to the sum, and 3 contributes 3 to the sum. This is 7. This is not divisible by 0. So the first bit of the number I'm trying to find out is 1. And overall my number is 1, 0, which is basically 2.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what do you think is the time
yeah.
complexity of this?
So the time complexity is going to be n into the number of bits that I need to find out.
Right.
So let's say that the maximum number appearing in the array is, let's say, x, then my complexity will be n log x.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's going to be the time complexity. Space complexity is going to be extra space would be big O of 1.
Okay, cool, cool. So I think like you really made this problem look very easy, though it's something on the easier side only. So let's increase the level of the difficulty and get to a better problem. Okay. Now my next problem to you is, we are given n elements and there is some specific ordering defined for them. And now you need to place these numbers in an end-to-end grid such that this ordering is followed. So let's say our n for an example was 3. And we were given these orderings. 1 is to the left of 3, 2 is to the right of 1, and 1 is above 3 and 2 is below 3. So, but now you need to place these numbers in a grid of 3 into 3. So actually, if we look at the answer for this, the answer for this would be, okay. So now if you look at this answer, actually, 1 is actually to the left of 3, and then we also have 1 is to the left of 2. And if we see the up-down pattern, we have 1 is above 3 and 2 is below 3. So if you see, this ordering is actually maintained in this answer. Now you need to find an algorithm or a way to find this ordering.
Let me just paraphrase the question once so that I actually understand the problem properly.
Okay.
I'm going to have as input an integer n, I think, and then you are saying that I have numbers from 1 to n, 1, 2, 3, 4, so until n.
Right.
Also, I have a grid of size n cross n.
Right.
Okay. So apart from that, I'll be given some number of orderings.
Correct.
This means this line 6 and 7, you are saying that this stands for 1 should be the right of 3 when I place 1 and 3 in the grid.
No, 1 should be the left of 3.
Okay, one should be at the left of 3 when I place 1 and 3 in the grid.
Right.
Okay, and similarly 1 should be at the left of 2 also.
Right.
This means what does line 9 and 10 represent?
So basically, a pipe shows that this is a vertical ordering. So by this, we can say that 1 is above 3. So the left part is something which is above and the right part is something which is down. Similarly, on the 10th line, we can say that 2 is above 3.
Okay, okay. I think that makes sense. I'll be given some orderings. I need to follow them and I need to put these n numbers into the grid.
Right.
So I'm having n square empty positions, right? But I only need to use n of these empty positions.
Right, right.
Okay, okay, okay. So if I look at 12, 13, and 14, then the rule 1 is to the left of 3 gets followed. Okay. 1 is to left of 2 also get followed.
Right.
1 is above 3 is also getting, okay, okay. 2 is above 3 is not getting followed, I think.
Yeah.
2 is above 3.
This should be opposite because.
Okay, okay, okay. 3 is above 2. All right, now it makes sense, I guess. Sure. So I think the first thing that comes to my mind is probably a backtracking solution.
Okay.
That would just try out all the possibilities. So I have n numbers that I need to put in and I have n square possible positions to put them in.
Okay.
And a brute force would be to just pick up a position for number 1, put it, then take the next number, pick some empty position for 2, put it there, and just do this for all the 9 numbers or n numbers.
Okay.
And then I can just check whether the grid is following these rules or not. If it is following, then I found out an answer. Otherwise, I'll just try out all the possibilities.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, like, what do you think
It's
is the
just-
complexity of this one?
It's going to be really bad. It's going to be factorial, I guess. Exponential for sure. So maybe we can try to do something better. Let's. I'll try to think about these rules now.
Okay.
Majorly, what you're saying is that can there be multiple answers, because there is no order defined between 3 and 2 above the left thing.
Yes, there can be multiple answers.
So probably this might work with you. 3 is here, this is empty. 2 is here, this is empty. This might work for you, right?
Yes.
Okay. So all I need to do is follow these orderings, and how I can think about it is that 1 is to the left of 3. I'm thinking about 1 and 3 as 2 nodes of a graph.
Okay.
And that rule as a ordering, basically a directed edge from 1 to 3.
Okay.
And this represents basically there is a node U and a node V, and there is an edge from node U to V, a directed edge from node U to V. I would treat it as that I should have U to the left of V.
Okay.
So overall, if I think about 1, 2, 3 making a graph and the rules on line number 6 and 7, then I would have a graph where there is an edge from 1 to 3, a directed edge,
Okay.
and a directed edge from 1 to 2 as well.
Okay.
So I have one doubt here.
Okay.
Can I have contradictory rules?
No, let's just assume that there is a given solution for that and there are no contradictory rules.
Okay, so it would not be that from the rules I infer that 1 is to the left of 8 and 8 is also to the left of 1. This would not occur.
That's not possible.
All right. So the graph that I'm talking about, I'll just make a note for all these n numbers. And for the left rules, I would make an edge, a directed edge, whenever there is a number u to the left of v, then there will be a directed edge from node u to node v.
Okay. So basically, for now, you are skipping the vertical ordering and you're just focusing on the horizontal.
I'm focusing on the left to right ordering for now.
Okay.
We'll think about horizontal ones later, but currently I'm trying to find out a left to right ordering.
Okay.
Because once I have the left to right ordering, it's merely a thing of pushing the numbers up and down in the grid.
Okay.
Because
Right.
I'll have the columns fixed. Later on, I just need to think about the rows.
Okay. Right. Perfect.
So this particular graph, the topological sort of this graph would give you an order that would basically represent the left to right order. Because if there is a node U that has some directed edge to V, then you should have U before any V.
Right.
And that's exactly the topological sorting of a graph.
Okay.
So if you think about this 1, 3, 1, 2 and make a graph and I do a topological sort on that, I will get 1, 3 or 2, or I might get 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
I would get one of these outputs as a topological sort of the graph.
Correct.
Right. And let's say that I get 1, 3, 2 as my output of the topological sorting of the graph.
Okay.
Just a second. Just for clarity's sake, I'm making the graph. Right. This is your graph and edge from 1 to 2 and edge from 1 to 3.
Okay.
So let's say I get 1, 2, and 3 as the output, topological sort.
Okay.
Now this 1, 2, 3 definitely defines that in my grid, the first column is going to contain 1, second column will contain 2, and third column will contain 3. That's fixed now.
Yeah. Right. Perfect.
Right. All I need to now do is in what row does 1 go, in what row does 2 go, and in what row does 3 go. And I think using these rules, I could build another graph. And similarly, I'll do another topological sort of that graph.
Okay.
So for example, 1 is to above of 3. So there would be an directed edge from 1 to 3 in my graph.
Right.
And there would be a directed edge from 3 to 2 in my graph. So this is what my graph will look like.
Correct.
And a topological sort of this graph would give me 1, 3, 2.
Okay.
Now this tells me that the rows in which I'm going to put 1, 3, 2 from top to down, 1 should go to the topmost row, whereas 3 should go to the middle row and 2 should go to the bottom row.
Right.
And using these two things, I can decide the exact cell in which a number goes.
Okay. Okay. So let's just.
So let me just tell you order 1
Okay.
from left to right.
Okay.
Order 2 from top to down.
Okay.
So order 1 is telling me that, okay, the left to right ordering is this, and order 2 is telling me the top to down ordering is this. This is how my numbers look top to down, and this is how my number look left to right.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, like, should I construct the grid from this, or I think you were going to ask some follow-up.
No, let's first make the grid.
Okay. So according to this thing, according to order 1 goes to the first column.
Okay.
And according to order 2, 1 goes to the first row.
Okay.
So 1 goes here.
Okay.
Right. And let's think about 2 now. According to order 1, 2 goes to the column number 2.
Okay.
That means somewhere here. And according to order 2, 2 goes to the third row.
Okay. So you are basically using the indexes in which they are placed in order 1 and the indexes in which they are placed in order 2, and then using them as row number and the column number, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes more sense. Exactly.
Okay. So let's say like this was order 1, and we could write this, and we could write the indexes of this, and then for order 2 also we could write the indexes for this, and the indexes would be 0, 1 and 2, right?
Exactly.
Okay. So now since we know that 1 is the first element on the 0th index, therefore we can say that this will actually be on the 0th row.
Yeah.
Column
Yep.
actually.
0th row, 0th column.
Yeah. So since order 1 is the left to right ordering, we can say that this is actually for the column.
Yeah. The order 1 is defining the columns and the order 2 is defining the rows.
Right. Okay.
So overall, if you think about it, 1 goes to 0, 0, 2
Okay.
goes to 1, 2,
Okay.
and just a second. 2 goes to, sorry. 2 goes to 2, 1. The order 2 defines the row, order 1 defines the column.
Right.
Similarly, 3 goes to 1, 2.
Okay. So let's just construct the grid first.
Yep. This is going to be the grid now.
Okay. So basically we have 1 at 0, 0, which is actually from order 1 and order 2 from the indexes. Then we have 3 at 1, 2, which is actually from order 2 is telling us the row number. So we had 3 at the first index, therefore we took it in the first row, and we had 3 in the second column, therefore we took it in the second column, right? Is that so?
Yep. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
So I think this is pretty much it. What do you think is the complexity of this problem now?
So overall, the time complexity. So I am assuming there can be at most n-1 rules of each type. So
Both.
the directed acyclic.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the directed topological sorting is big O of n in a directed acyclic graph. Basically, it's big O of v plus e, but since the edges and the number of nodes are both approximately equal to n,
Right.
so I'll just assume it to be big O of n, and then yeah, it's going to be big O of n only. Yep.
Okay. Cool. And the space complexity, I don't think we are actually using any space.
If we actually make a grid, then it's obviously n squared, but I don't think we need to make an entire grid. We can just give out the positions.
Right. Exactly.
So space complexity would be O(n) to store those orders.
Okay. Cool.
Unless I do something smarter to improve on it, but for now, I think maybe that might be good.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm pretty much satisfied with the solution.
So that is it for this video. I think Karthik did really great in both the coding problems, and if you learned something from this video, do give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. If you want me to make more of this type of videos, do tell me in the comments section. Karthik has also made a complete playlist on dynamic programming, so if you want to learn dynamic programming, do check out his channel as well.